Okay, folks, we are going to do this now, this extra bonus class for the Cosmic Alchemy Superheroes course. This is an extra bonus class that I wanted to do on the eclipses, how Rahu and Ketu not just affect in general, which we'll cover in the main course, and in the main course I'll be talking about how Rahu and Ketu affect in the natal chart, right? How to understand our Rahu and Ketu. Rahu as the spoiled child versus Ketu, the strict parent, sort of dynamic duo. That's what I'll be talking about in the full course, how you feel that and experience that individually. Of course, the lunar nodes are anomalies in that they are eclipse points. And as I'm recording this, we're a couple days before a major eclipse in Pisces that has Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, of course, the sun, moon, the sun, moon, Rahu. So these are, as I say, like cosmic anomalies. Now, again, it's very interesting about eclipses. It's easy to think that they're common because they happen all the time, and they do. They happen, the total amount, it's about 1 day per year we're under an eclipse. The lunar eclipse lasts about 6 hours, or I think it's more than that. In totality, it's a couple hours, twice a year. And the solar eclipse also about 2 to 3 hours in aggregate each time we have it, a couple times a year. So even though they're predictable and we know they're coming, they're still very much anomalies. They're both rare and common at the same time. And it's very important to understand their influence when they happen, both on personal and collective levels. So as it says here on this slide, when the forces eclipse us, Rahu and Ketu, and the push and pull of the eclipse cycle, as you see, I have a graphic also up there that has Virgo and Pisces now. The thing to understand is that the lunar end of the node shows how we feel during the eclipse cycle. It's a cycle. It's a dynamic. And the solar end shows where we need to focus our energy and attention. So typically, just like with the lunar nodes in our natal chart, one end of the node is going to draw attention away from the other end. And at different points in time, one end of the node is more activated. It's very easy to see when we have the eclipse cycle because, for example, we had a lunar eclipse in Virgo, March 13th, 14th. That was the lunar eclipse, so it was the feeling. And then 2 weeks later, we have the solar eclipse, which is really where we need to be focusing our action, external action in the world, is around this Pisces themes. And we can see these Pisces themes being shown up in the world now, where all of the kind of dissolving of boundaries, leaks, borders, boundaries, all these kinds of things are big. And the dissolving of those things are really where so much of our focus and energy and attention is going. But then there's this feeling of needing to be more structured, organized, and Virgo is a stressful sign. Virgo is where we can feel the stress, literally feel the stress because it's a feminine sign, feel the stress of not having everything figured out. Because Mercury is where we're trying to figure everything out. Virgo is where we're trying to get everything organized. And we feel that in Virgo because it's a feminine sign where we reflect on it. And so that lunar eclipse in Virgo gives us this feeling that, and this restlessness that we don't have it all organized, especially because externally now we see everything dissolving in the Pisces. And we're trying to put energy into holding together things that are dissolving because we feel that we don't have it together, and then we put the energy into the area, and ultimately we have to let go of that notion that we know what's coming next, so to speak, which is that Pisces end. So again, that's very much on an invisible level. But then, as it says here, the signs and houses show the nature of the personal and collective disruption. So again, it's this sign of Pisces, and the houses, which means, like, relative to your chart, whatever houses Pisces and Virgo fall in show the nature of how you're experiencing the personal disruption. So, like for me, it's the 4th and the 10th houses. The Virgo is the 4th house. So again, it's about very much feeling that whole concept of not having things organized and really feeling that, and then having to put a lot of energy into even things like work and duties, career, responsibility, all of that, because Pisces and Virgo fall in that 4th and 10th house axis for me as Gemini. If you're Leo, it falls in your 2nd and 8th houses, which have to do with money and resources in the 2nd house, values, even like family and the values invested in them and whatnot. And the 8th house of things getting destroyed, disappearing, and getting destroyed so that you can make room for the next thing. So ultimately, in the 8th house, we need all of our illusions destroyed so that we can make way for true wisdom to come in through the 9th house. But again, we can then be exposed to true wisdom, but then not apply it and just think it's an idea, et cetera, et cetera. But first, we need to destroy all of the ignorance. So again, Leo would be experiencing that kind of thing. Here's my values, but now they're getting destroyed so that the next thing comes in so I can really have wisdom, etc. So these are big themes right now in all of our life, personally and collectively. Again, we're seeing it collectively with all the boundaries dissolving, international boundaries, corporate boundaries, all of the global boundaries, the things dissolving, power structures dissolving, and it makes us restless and nervous. So like it says there at the bottom, you lay your chart over the axis to make it more personal, like I just did. So if you have planets in Pisces or Virgo, for example, then it becomes more personalized. And that's, for example, with me, I also have Jupiter there in that 10th house, in that sign of Pisces. So in many ways, you really start feeling the disruption of the eclipse as soon as the node enters the sign where you have the planet. So like for me personally, I started feeling the disruption of this 10th house Pisces dissolving in my career at the end of 2023 when Rahu first went into the 10th house. That's when I was like, okay, yes, this is real. Things are shifting so much. And then by the time Rahu goes through and he's been there for a year or so, the challenge is that you have had to adjust to whatever is going on. In my case, you've had to make the same adjustments based on wherever the 10th house, wherever Pisces is for you. And if you have any planets there. And if you're also like your dasha cycle, your planetary cycles and all. So this is how the spoiled, naive child and the strict parent operate. So again, what's happening is Rahu has been trying to develop new ways of doing those Pisces things. You could say this on a personal level, because Rahu is that, okay, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this, like the restless child. And Ketu is opposite that, sitting back going, that's not going to work. You don't feel like doing that. You don't want to do that. A rejecting attitude. See, that didn't work either. See, that didn't work either. Nothing's going to work. You're just being a child. You're just being immature. Just let go of it all and do this. Because that's Ketu's nature. The Ketu part of you is the part that feels like, ugh, I've done enough. I've been there and done that. I just want to be free. I just want to be unburdened of whatever's going on. So again, if you have planets in Virgo, that sort of letting go and feeling like over it, used up feeling of feeling over it and whatnot, started at the end of 2023 when Ketu started going through Virgo. But when the eclipses happen, that's when this dynamic comes to a head. That's when it's no more just I'm feeling this and noticing this and it's not just as abstract anymore. Those themes and those issues come up and blow up in our life. And I say blow up, not necessarily in a bad way, but they become, okay, now this is the thing you're dealing with now. And the residual effect is to be, I'm looking for something here. The residual effect is that we have, here it is. I'm going to bring this one up here too, is that lasting effect, this increasing and decreasing, waxing and waning effect. So again, what we've seen is that since the end of February and then until the end of April, this 2-month cycle, we're like really getting closer right now to this 100% effect of the eclipse. And you see it, and if you tighten that window, if it's 2 weeks around the eclipse, like that month, it's about 75% in effect. As we're like right on March 29th, we feel it like so strong right now because we're in that most acute influence of the eclipse. As it says, 1 month before and 1 month after the eclipse, the effect is greatest. You feel the effect relative to your chart and houses affected by the eclipse. So this is how the inner child and disapproving parent within start to push you forward in different external moments, right? Of course, all the planets move. Saturn moves, Mars moves, they all transit. But of course, because Rahu and Ketu are 2 and they hang out on this axis for a year and a half, they implicate 2 areas of life. An area of trying to, again, use the best qualities of the inner child, curiosity of Rahu. Again, that inner child curiosity of Rahu is the real benefit of Rahu. And use that to conquer new territory as it moves through the sky in your life. And rather than get into the rejecting extreme of Ketu, you can utilize the power of Ketu, which isn't to just reject everything in the world, but to fall back on that wisdom, that embedded wisdom. So instead of it being like a strict disapproving parent within, it's a tolerant, loving parent who uses the experience, the soul's experience, to realize that, okay, I got this. So instead of feeling like, oh, I've been there and done that and I'm tired of it, it's the same type of energy, but it's, okay, I see what this is and I got this. I can handle this. I've handled this before. I've handled things like this before. And then it's not only a great skill that you can bring forth, but again, it takes you into that aspect of your consciousness and nature that is an anchor for everything else that's always going to happen. Like, for example, when I was born, so you have to look at both the natal chart and then where the eclipse is happening. When I was born, Ketu was in Sagittarius, Rahu was in Gemini. They were in the 1st and 7th houses, so they're very active. And now that I'm not 35 or 40 or whatever, I've been working with Rahu and Ketu my whole life. When the eclipses come, I have a lot to fall back on, a lot of experience, even though this eclipse is affecting me in my 4th house and 10th house. Like I said, Ketu going through the 4th house, what it means is that I could fall back on that experience, all that life experience of Ketu and Sagittarius, all these teachings, all of this recognizing of other people freaking out. Everybody's freaking out. This is my Ketu in the 7th house has always seen that, has always seen people freaking out and me either feeling like I'm over it. All right, I've been around people freaking out and I don't want to deal with it, which is the first line where Ketu in the 7th house would go. People are unreliable. They're freaking out all the time. They get on my nerves and I'm going to reject it. That would be Ketu in the 7th in general. The evolution of that would be people are freaking out. I've handled that. I get it. We're all freaking out. We're all freaks. We all freak out. Just chill out instead of reject it because I know what's best and I'm the expert and I know everything, which is where Ketu is the blind spot you have. So instead of being the, again, strict parent who is just correcting the mistakes of others or life and angry about it, over time, Ketu becomes a very perceptive force where we can perceive, okay, this person's just freaking out, and you learn to see why or what's going on, and then also what they need. Do they need a little encouragement? Do they need a little tough love? What do they need? I'll try. It doesn't mean I'm an expert, but I'll try. And at the very least, I don't have to get twisted up about it and angry and prove to them that I know why they're wrong or whatever it might be, right? So over time, Ketu and Rahu just mature in your consciousness. And then you bring that maturity to wherever that eclipse is influencing. Like I said, for now, for me, that Ketu is influencing that 4th house where I could be freaking out because there's all kinds of things going on. Selling a condo, my work is changing in so many ways. I could just be, and I could have been freaking out the whole last year and a half or so. I haven't been. I've been saying, okay, let me try this. Let me say, okay, this is working a little bit. This isn't. It hasn't been making me frustrated. In fact, one of the things it's done is it's brought a very deep level of devotion and an appreciation and a desire to want to show up more for those who want to learn more or whatever it might be. Instead of the Ketu going through my 4th house in the sky being a rejecting, worried, emotional situation about others, being like angry at other people's emotions or whatever it might be, it's just led to much deeper devotion because that energy has matured in me. So the thing to understand also about all transits is wherever the planets are moving, whatever they're affecting, they're a representative of how much maturity you have gained with that energy already. So again, when astrologers make any planetary transit or shift to be like, oh, the boogeyman's going to get you, it's not a boogeyman if you have evolved and developed a lot of awareness with that energy yourself. It's going to bring that power no matter where it's going because it's your energy. It's just like an aspect of your consciousness is moving now through another aspect of your inner astral landscape. But you're the energy of Rahu and Ketu and Saturn and whatnot, all of that, right? All of that experience that you have with Rahu or Ketu and handling it skillfully or not is now coming to bear in all of those situations and examples that I'm talking about. So this is where we're at right now relative to the eclipses and the upcoming course is going to be great. And I look forward to seeing people on that upcoming course. And I'm glad that we got to do this bonus. It's a bonus on how to really understand the disapproving parent and inner child within as it moves through the sky and affects your nature and your life.